It's the Side Fantasy Football Podcast. We are back. It is Tuesday, September 6th. We just drafted this past weekend. The league is in full swing. We got football in 2 days. I am Nick Testoni here with Joe Briner. Joe, any thoughts on the draft this past weekend?
Oh, I'm very happy about how the draft went. I mean, obviously, we haven't got to the first game of the season yet, so most people are going to be happy with their teams. But I mean, everything kind of felt to me in the draft. I know we're going to get to it a little bit more, but I was very happy with how it
There were a
finished
couple
up.
snipes. There's a couple snipes,
Yeah,
mainly I think between me and you.
yeah. Me and you being back to back was definitely not ideal, but we'll get into that some more. Happy to be here for episode 3.
Yeah, so we have, like I said, we have football in a couple days. We'll pick winners. Let's see. I don't know if where we land up, but Joe might give you some daily DFS lineups for the game. Bills Rams Thursday night. We also are going to go recap the draft, and we actually have a special visitor, a guest
Oh
today.
yeah,
We will get to, but first, you want to get to the news, Joe?
let's get into it.
All right, so first thing, Joe, you found the thing on Russell Gage. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so I actually saw this on Sleeper. I got a Sleeper alert that told me Russell Gage was on track, quote, on track to play week 1. I thought that was definitely important considering there had been a lot of talk about Julio, like taking Julio late in drafts. So I think with Russell Gage playing, obviously Julio would still be like a third option there with Chris Godwin iffy. I know we're going to talk about him a little bit more too, but as of now, it seems as if Russell Gage is probably going to be the 2 or 3 wide receiver in Tampa come week 1.
Yeah, Russell Gage, I feel like had a lot of buzz early on, and I was actually looking at him as a late round target, and I faded him heavy. I don't know, the injuries, and he just kind of seems with the Julio Jones coming in, there was a lot of stuff that really wasn't looking good for his output. He almost, remember a couple years ago, Scotty Miller had some traction, and then he faded. That's where I kind of put Russell Gage in that category. We'll see how it shakes out early with the snaps, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that the Scotty Miller thing ended up being nothing too. So it's very possible that this, especially with Julio joining, it's very possible that although Russell Gage is on track week 1, that there's a lot of people that are going to be catching balls from Tom Brady this year. So it's going to be hard to really focus in.
Yeah, I don't even know if Julio's a late round guy you can kind of take a chance on, but I didn't see a lot left in the tank last year with him, so I'm not even really in on him. But one guy I am in on, and I drafted. We can go to Chris Godwin next.
Oh yeah,
Godwin has a projection on fantasy. I did not expect him to play week 1. He was spotted on Monday's practice, no brace on his right leg as he was going through practice. I think it's still up in the air for his status, but week 1's definitely in a possibility, although it might be on a snap count. But Chris Godwin looks like he might be back a little sooner than people thought.
he's the guy in Tampa that I liked last year. I had him in a league, and Mike Evans is obviously the red zone guy in Tampa, but Chris Godwin was the PPR machine last year, and having him in a PPR league where he was averaging probably like 8 plus targets a game, getting 6 plus catches a game with ease. I mean, I really enjoyed having Chris Godwin this past year. So I hope, I know he's on your team, not mine, but I hope that he's able to start week 1 because that would be really great just for Tampa as a whole, as an offense, and also for fantasy reasons.
Good for Tom too. I think
a
lot of
great for Tom.
I don't know. I think Tom still has a good year, but there's definitely more questions about Tom Brady than in a long time, with just the kind of weird retirement comeback, and then who knows, the 10-day absence. But one thing that was certain is Mike Evans is still going to get his work, but Godwin was his safety valve. I would say even more than Gronkowski last year, especially with Gronkowski missing time. Godwin, I believe, had the most targets, and it just seemed to be Tom's go-to guy. So he hopefully gets on track earlier than we expected. And then Michael Gallup, I believe.
You drafted Godwin. I drafted Gallup. Godwin's looking on the up for you, according to ESPN projections, obviously, and Gallup is on a looking down at the moment. He is listed as out now. When I drafted him, he was listed as questionable. He had a 0 projection, but he's now listed as out, which is honestly good for me because that's what I wanted. Although it's bad for him because he's most likely not going to play week 1. I was drafting him with the intent to put him on the IR and hopefully pick someone up. So I'm definitely happy to have him as my wide receiver 5, I think. I believe he's my wide receiver 5, and I was able to put him put him on the bench, or put him on the IR, excuse me, and actually just picked up Romeo Dubs because I did see something. It wasn't finalized, but I did see something about Alan Lazard, undisclosed, not 100% locked in for week 1. So
Yeah, and for Gallup, I don't think this is like necessarily negative news. I don't think they expected him. I think he's still on track to get back. I just think,
yeah, I
he tore
didn't
his
mean
ACL late. He's not going to be back week 1.
yeah, for sure. I didn't mean 100% negative. I just meant trending down, just based upon how Godwin was trending up to play, Gallup trending down not to play, even though we were kind of expecting him not to play anyways.
Yeah, and then lastly, on ESPN, Mike Clay and I believe who else was writing in on this? Kyle Sopp. They put together, they went week by week and statted out every quarterback's stats, including their QBR, touchdowns, yards, went through every single matchup and broke it down. It's a pretty cool thing that you can go on ESPN and see. The end of the year, they have the leaders being Aaron Rodgers with a QB rating of 102.4, and then Mahomes getting both leader in yards and touchdowns. Mahomes with 4,800 over 4,800 yards and 38 touchdowns. And then Mike Clay said his projected top performers of the year, not really outside the box here, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. I don't know if you got anything on that, but
Yeah,
thought it was interesting to look at.
That all kind of just makes sense, to be honest. I mean, having Patrick Mahomes leading with the touchdowns was kind of surprising, especially with losing Tyreek Hill. I know MVS and Juju are in there now. Obviously, he still has Travis Kelce, but that's a little surprising to have him leading in the touchdown department, considering he's the only quarterback in that top three list that weapons got worse. So that's surprising, but obviously it's projection before the first game of the season happens, so you can't look too deep into it.
Yeah, so that is the news. You want to get into our next thing? I think we'll go break down the draft.
Yeah,
let's
get it Sam Smith involved here.
Yeah, so let me introduce second-year member of our league. He took over for one of the original players. Last year had a pretty good season. He went to the championship game where unfortunately he fell short. Multi-Grammy Award winning Sam Smith.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm happy to be here. Happy to break down the draft. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun year.
Now,
happy
Sam,
to have you, Sammy boy.
Sam, do you have anything, a little background on like your experience in fantasy, how you usually like to go about drafting, what your strategy was for this draft? Anything you just want to give a little background on?
So last year I started off three wide receivers and I came up short of the championship. So I wanted to do a complete 180 and start with 3 running backs this year. So we're going to see how that works.
I did notice that. Yeah.
It was all about depth this year.
Yeah. Last year my wide receivers really carried me, but this year I'm running with Alan Lazard. So we're going to see how he shapes up week 1.
It is important to say Sam Smith was the big winner last year as he took Cooper Kupp with the first pick of the 4th round. So he did have that lovely wide receiver. That wasn't even, I believe, who were your first 2 wide receivers taken? It was Diggs and
Tyreek.
And Tyreek, and neither of those guys ended the year on your roster, did they?
No, they did not.
No.
They did not.
Bond was a week 2 trade. Got good value out of him. Got Chris Carson. I think he was injured maybe 2 weeks after.
Never played again.
Nope. And Tyreek